In this video, I'm going to show you sample number 9, known as darts. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing you're going to need is one of these templates. So I will have some here in the classroom, and it will look something like this. And you will need to cut out the line so that it looks like this. And I want you to, in the direction of these darts or triangles looking upward, I want you to use one of these kinds of rulers, matching up the side and the bottom. And I want you to draw just a little bit of a line. Does not need to go across the entire page. And this straight line is going to tell you which direction the grain needs to be. So go ahead and do that. Okay, so I did a little rip test here to find my straight grain line. And you're going to put your pattern on fabric, and you're just going to make sure that it matches that grain line. So as you can see, that is the true grain, which means that this muslin is a little bit warped. So don't trust this self edge to be your straight line. You need to trust the true grain line. So yes, go ahead and put your pattern on there and then cut it out. Okay, so I have officially finished cutting out my shape. Yes, you can pin right through the paper, and I highly recommend it. Okay, so go ahead and take your pattern off, and I'll show you the next step. Okay, so the next step we need to do is transfer these dart shapes onto the fabric. So you have a couple options. Option 1, you could simply make sure that your fabric and your pattern are aligned. So I'm going to stick some pins into the table so that they don't shift around while I'm doing this. And you could take a pencil, and in the top of the dart you could make a little dot, and then at the bottom, and then you would end up with a dot here, a dot here, and a dot here, and it becomes as simple as that. That is method number 1. Method number 2, you can get this wax transferable tracing paper that we have in the drawers where we keep the feet for the machines. You put the dark red side down onto the fabric, and then pattern on top, and then again I recommend that you stick some pins in so nothing shifts around. And then you'll take one of these handy dandy tracing wheels with little spikes, and you're going to do a spike. Now you have to align it as close as possible. Right, there we go. Maybe a spike on that side at the top, spike on that side at the top, and then you don't need to go all the way down. Just do another one here, another one there. Aha! And now you can see that there is some red here, and red here. And it's the same deal. You're just going to get out a ruler and make that triangle shape. Ta-da! So those are 2 different methods for making the darts, and you're going to want to go ahead and make sure you do all 3. Okay, so now we have our template here ready to make the darts. which are going to look like this. Little raised triangles. So there's that example, and then there's this one here. So it's kind of tricky, but basically you're just gonna grab the bottom like this, and you're gonna try and on both sides match them up. Now I'm gonna probably sew from this part down, so I'm gonna make sure my pin is gonna pull out this way. So I'm gonna do this and this here at the top. Now this is probably a point where I'm actually going to use parallel pins instead of perpendicular. Find that point, that dot, and see if you can get it to be right on the edge. So make that your next step. And just so I even know where to stop sewing on the machine, I'm just going to stick a pin in perpendicular. But I want to do it from the side where I can pull the pin out. So I'm going to do it there. Alright, so my pin is coming out where that dot is, and then I just have this at the top, keeping those two dots together. Now, all that's left is to get this part. And if I'm sewing from this direction down, the pins need to be with the ball towards the down direction so I can pull them out while I'm sewing. And the trick is to stick it in one side and see if it matched up on the line here. And if it didn't, you're gonna see if you can pull it out of just one side and then shift it with your thumb. It's still, so I'm still leaving it in this side of the fabric, but I got it right this time. So I'm vertically pinning it along the line like that. So I'm gonna see if I can do it once more, and then I should be good. So in here, did it come out on the line? Oh, I'm lucky it did. I didn't have to shift the fabric over on this side and attempt to only pull it out one side of the fabric. But yep, like that. And it did come out again on the line on this side as well. So you're trying to keep it on the line on both sides. And so now I'm just going to take this to the machine and sew it. Okay, so now I want to make sure that this line here matches up exactly with this groove on the foot where the needle sews. So I'm going to insert, place my foot down, and then manually put my needle in to make sure that it lands on the line. Now that it's there, I don't need this first vertical one. And I probably really don't need this one either. Okay, and then I'm gonna start sewing, back stitch, now, here is something very critical. I backstitched at the beginning, but you will absolutely not backstitch at the end. When you get to the end, you will just sew right off the piece of fabric, and then you will make sure to leave 2 long strings, and I will show you why. Okay, getting to the end. I can see my dot on the edge there. I went off, lift my foot, I did not backspace, pull my thread out, make it nice and long, right about there is good, cut. I will trim off the top ones because I don't need them, but this, these two strings, is what you should end up with. So you can see I've now got a first dart. The reason we don't backstitch is because we're going to manually tie the end here. So you'll need to separate your strings. And the reason is because if you don't, this dart will create like a bump in your fabric. So it already kind of creates like this little navel. But if I were to backstitch, adding all that extra thread would make this like little dip even bigger. And this can be a problem, especially if you are doing darts on the front of a bust. Then it might look like, you know, the bust is protruding through, and most people don't really want that. So you're just going to take your two strings, the end here, and you know, you're just going to do a simple knot. And I just recommend twice, and that way you will guarantee that the thread will not come undone here, but at the same time you didn't create extra bulk, and you minimized this little navel shape as much as possible. So now you will do this process for the other two darts. The goal of your darts is to get them to be exactly the same length. That is why it is so important to mark, you know, with your pin at the top where it's supposed to end. That's why I did that, because I will be grading on how equal, you know, the same length you can get all three of your darts. And that is how you do darts.